My son took everything from me, my business, my home, my wife of 32 years. He did it slowly, methodically, with the precision of a surgeon removing a tumor. I raised Benedict with my own hands, taught him to read blueprints in my architectural firm when he was barely tall enough to see over the drafting table. Cordelia would bring us sandwiches while we worked late into the evening, and I'd watch her ruffle his hair with such tenderness. I trusted him completely. That trust became the knife he used to cut me out of my own life. I am Atticus Finley, 73 years old. Built Finley Architectural Design from nothing but a drafting table in my garage and the stubborn belief that good buildings could change lives. Started the firm in 1982 with Cordelia by my side. She kept the books while I chased clients and stayed up until dawn perfecting blueprints. We had nothing but each other and a shared dream of creating something beautiful, something lasting. Benedict arrived 2 years later. Our miracle baby after 5 years of trying. I remember holding him in the hospital, promising him a legacy worth inheriting, a family business built on integrity and craftsmanship. The boy had architecture in his blood, could read elevations before he could ride a bicycle. By age 12, he was sketching building facades with the precision of someone twice his age. Clients would smile when he wandered into meetings, charmed by his quick mind and easy confidence. I taught him everything: structural engineering, client relations, the delicate art of translating dreams into blueprints. He absorbed it all like sunlight through glass, natural and effortless. When Benedict graduated from MIT with his architecture degree, I knew our future was secure. The firm would live beyond me. The Finley name meant something in this town. Honest work, fair prices, buildings that stood the test of time. I made him partner on his 28th birthday. Cordelia threw a celebration dinner at our house on Maple Street. Benedict raised his glass and thanked me for believing in him. Said he would spend his life proving worthy of that trust. I believed him completely. The first few years were golden. Benedict brought fresh ideas and modern techniques that impressed our established clients. He landed 3 major commercial projects in his first year as partner. The firm grew. We hired additional drafters and expanded our office space. Cordelia glowed with pride whenever someone complimented our son. She would beam and say Benedict inherited the best of both of us, my vision and her business sense. I felt grateful every single day for the family we had built together. Benedict handled the younger clients effortlessly. They related to his energy and contemporary approach. I focused on our long-term residential clients who valued experience and tradition. We made a perfect team, or so I thought. The changes started small. Benedict began suggesting I look tired during client meetings. He would pat my shoulder and recommend I take longer lunch breaks. Rest more. Delegate the demanding projects to him. His concern felt genuine, loving. I was approaching 65. Maybe I was slowing down without realizing it. Benedict started attending meetings solo. Said he wanted to spare me the stress of difficult clients. He would return with signed contracts and enthusiastic reports about how smoothly everything had gone. I felt proud of his growing independence. Cordelia began expressing worry about my health. She noticed I seemed forgetful, distracted. Benedict had mentioned I repeated myself during phone calls with suppliers, asked about projects we had already discussed. I started second-guessing myself. Had I really forgotten that conversation with the lumber supplier? Did I actually schedule 2 meetings for the same time slot? Benedict suggested I see our family doctor for a routine checkup, just to be safe. Dr. Harrison found nothing wrong, but Benedict insisted we monitor my stress levels. Too much responsibility for someone my age. The first major incident happened on a Tuesday morning in October. The Morrison family arrived for their 9 a.m. appointment to review final blueprints for their custom home. I had been working on their project for 3 months, every detail memorized. They seemed confused when I greeted them. Mrs. Morrison asked if I had forgotten our phone conversation from the previous week. Apparently, I had requested significant changes to the master bedroom layout. Changes that made no sense given their original requirements. Benedict appeared from his office with a concerned expression. Apologized to the Morrisons for my confusion. Explained that I had been under tremendous pressure lately. He smoothly redirected the conversation and salvaged the meeting. After they left, Benedict sat me down for a gentle talk. Said he was worried about me. These memory lapses were becoming more frequent. Maybe I should consider reducing my client load. I felt grateful for his patience, embarrassed by my apparent mistakes. The last thing I wanted was to damage our reputation through carelessness. Benedict began reviewing all my work before it went to clients. A quality control measure, he called it. Just temporary until I felt more like myself again. The Hendricks project sealed my growing self-doubt. I had designed a beautiful contemporary office building for their law firm, spent weeks perfecting every detail. When I presented the final drawings, they rejected them completely. According to Mr. Hendricks, these plans bore no resemblance to what we had discussed. They wanted traditional architecture, classic lines, timeless elegance, not the modern glass structure I had created. Benedict stepped in immediately, apologized profusely for my misunderstanding, promised to personally handle their project going forward. Within a week, he produced exactly what they wanted. I stared at his drawings in amazement. They were perfect. Everything the Hendricks firm had requested. How had I gotten their vision so completely wrong? Cordelia started watching me with worried eyes. She would ask if I had taken my vitamins, whether I was sleeping well. Her loving concern felt heavier than criticism. Benedict suggested I take a vacation, a few weeks away from the office to clear my head. Rest and recovery. He could handle everything while I was gone. For the first time in 30 years, I questioned my own competence. The firm I had built with my bare hands suddenly felt foreign, complicated, beyond my failing grasp. I agreed to step back, let Benedict take the lead, trust his judgment over my own increasingly unreliable instincts. That decision became the first domino in my complete destruction. The systematic destruction of my life began with missing documents. Client files I had organized meticulously vanished from my office. Project timelines I had carefully maintained disappeared from our shared calendar system. Meetings I distinctly remembered scheduling showed no record of ever existing. Benedict expressed concern about my organizational skills, suggested I might be overwhelmed by the administrative burden. He offered to take over client communications to reduce my stress. I felt grateful for his support, relieved someone was looking out for me. The financial irregularities started small, a few $100s missing from the Peterson account, an unauthorized payment to a supplier I had never heard of. When I questioned our bookkeeper, she showed me my signature on the authorization forms. My own handwriting, my own signature, approving expenses I had no memory of making. Benedict reviewed the discrepancies with genuine worry, said these kinds of memory lapses could indicate serious health issues. Recommended I see a specialist, get proper medical attention before things got worse. Dr. Sarah Chen ran extensive tests, cognitive assessments, blood work, brain imaging. Everything came back normal, but Benedict insisted we remain vigilant. Early-stage dementia could be difficult to detect. Cordelia started finding things in my coat pockets. A woman's earring, a restaurant receipt from a place I had never visited, a business card for a hotel downtown with a room number written on the back. She confronted me in our kitchen on a rainy Thursday evening, held up the earring with shaking hands, asked me to explain why another woman's jewelry was in my jacket. I had no explanation, no memory of how it got there, no understanding of what was happening to me. Cordelia cried for the first time in our marriage, quiet tears that broke my heart more than any accusation could have. She said she was scared, confused, didn't know what to believe anymore. Benedict positioned himself as the mediator, the loving son trying to help his parents through a difficult time. He spoke to Cordelia privately, reassured her that memory problems could cause unusual behavior, suggested we needed professional help. The mysterious phone calls started after midnight, unknown numbers that disconnected when I answered. Cordelia would wake up and ask who was calling so late. I had no answers. One evening, she checked my phone while I was showering, found text messages from someone named Diana, suggestive messages about meeting arrangements and shared secrets, messages I had never sent or received. When I protested my innocence, Cordelia showed me the evidence, my phone, my number, conversations that looked intimate and ongoing. Benedict arrived within an hour of Cordelia's panicked call, found her sobbing at our kitchen table while I sat in stunned silence. He comforted his mother with gentle words and meaningful looks. He suggested I might be living a double life without realizing it. Memory problems could create alternate personalities, entire relationships I couldn't remember. He had read about cases like this in medical journals. Our family doctor referred me to a neurologist. Dr. Martinez conducted additional tests, found nothing conclusive but recommended monitoring. Said stress could exacerbate underlying conditions. Client complaints began arriving weekly. The Johnsons claimed I had completely ignored their renovation timeline. The Riverside Church Committee said I had been rude and unprofessional during their planning meeting. The mayor's office reported I had missed 3 scheduled appointments. Benedict handled each crisis with diplomatic skill, apologized for my behavior, promised to personally oversee their projects. Clients appreciated his professionalism and attention to detail. I began questioning every interaction, every conversation, every decision I thought I had made. The line between reality and confusion blurred beyond recognition. Business partners started expressing concern. Jim Patterson, who had referred clients to us for 15 years, asked Benedict privately if I was drinking. Maria Santos suggested I might need extended medical leave. Benedict reluctantly agreed to assume full operational control. Temporary measure, he assured everyone, just until I received proper treatment and recovered my stability. The bank statements showed irregularities dating back months. Unauthorized transfers, suspicious payments, my signature authorizing transactions I had no memory of making. Our accountant, Robert Kim, requested an emergency meeting, showed me evidence of financial misconduct, embezzlement, fraud, all documented with my approval and oversight. Benedict reviewed the evidence with professional calm, said he had suspected something was wrong, but hoped it was just carelessness. The pattern was too consistent to be accidental. He suggested I might have a gambling problem or substance abuse issues. Memory problems could mask addictive behaviors. He had noticed mood swings and erratic decision-making. Cordelia stared at me across our dining room table. 32 years of marriage reduced to silence and suspicion. She asked if I had been stealing from our own company, if I had been lying to her about everything. I tried to explain that none of this made sense, that someone was manipulating the evidence, that I would never betray her trust or compromise our business. My words sounded hollow even to me. The evidence was overwhelming, documented, verified by multiple sources. Benedict arranged for me to see a psychiatrist. Dr. Elizabeth Harper specialized in cognitive disorders and personality changes. She prescribed medication for anxiety and depression, recommended immediate stress reduction. I started taking medical leave, spent days at home while Benedict managed the firm, watched my life shrink to the boundaries of our house on Maple Street. Cordelia moved into the guest bedroom, said she needed space to process everything, needed time to understand who I really was. Old friends stopped calling. Neighbors avoided eye contact when I walked to the mailbox. The reputation I had built over 30 years evaporated in a matter of months. Benedict visited regularly, brought updates from the office, expressed concern about my isolation, suggested I might benefit from professional counseling. He was managing everything perfectly. Clients were happy. Projects stayed on schedule. The firm's reputation remained intact despite my personal struggles. I felt grateful for his competence, ashamed of my failures, dependent on his strength and stability. The final blow came when our insurance company launched an investigation, suspected fraud, questioned my mental competency, threatened to cancel our coverage unless I underwent comprehensive psychiatric evaluation. Benedict supported me through every meeting, every interview, every humiliating assessment of my sanity and character. He told investigators that he loved me despite my problems, that he was committed to helping me recover, that the family business meant everything to him. I sat in those sterile conference rooms and watched my son defend me with unwavering loyalty. Felt ashamed that I had ever doubted his motives. The investigation concluded that I was suffering from severe cognitive decline, recommended immediate removal from all business operations, suggested long-term medical supervision. Benedict accepted full responsibility for the firm, promised to protect our clients and preserve our reputation, assured everyone that Finley Architectural Design would continue operating at the highest standards. I signed the transfer documents in a lawyer's office downtown, handed over 30 years of work to my son, trusted him to carry on what I could no longer manage. Cordelia filed for divorce the following week. Sterling Hayes entered our lives like salvation in a tailored suit. Benedict introduced him as his mentor from the university, a successful businessman who had built 3 companies from nothing, someone who understood family enterprises and their unique challenges. Sterling arrived at our house on Maple Street carrying flowers for Cordelia and genuine concern for our situation. He listened to our troubles with the kind of focused attention that made you feel heard, understood, valued. He had silver hair and kind eyes that crinkled when he smiled, spoke in measured tones about the complexities of cognitive decline and its impact on family businesses, said he had seen similar cases and knew how devastating they could be. Cordelia trusted him immediately, found comfort in his steady presence during the chaos of our crumbling marriage. He offered practical advice about legal protections and financial security, seemed genuinely invested in her well-being. Sterling suggested an independent audit of the firm's finances, said we needed objective analysis to understand the full extent of the damage, professional assessment from someone without emotional investment in the outcome. The auditing firm he recommended was thorough, meticulous. They examined every transaction from the past 3 years, found systematic irregularities that painted a clear picture of financial misconduct. According to their report, I had been embezzling funds for over 18 months. Small amounts at first, then increasingly larger sums. The pattern showed escalating desperation and declining judgment. Benedict appeared devastated by the findings, said he had hoped the situation was less serious than it appeared. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. Sterling comforted him with fatherly understanding, said discovering a parent's betrayal was one of life's cruelest experiences, that Benedict's loyalty and forgiveness spoke to his character. Our business partners demanded my immediate resignation, threatened legal action if I remained involved in any capacity. The firm's reputation hung by a thread, they said. Only Benedict's intervention was preventing complete collapse. I sat in conference rooms watching my life's work dissolve into accusations and legal threats. Partners who had known me for decades spoke about me like a stranger, a criminal, a man who had betrayed their trust for personal gain. Benedict defended me with quiet dignity, said I was sick, not evil. That mental illness had corrupted my judgment and led to these terrible decisions. He asked for understanding and compassion. Sterling supported Benedict's position while acknowledging the harsh realities of business. Said tough decisions needed to be made to protect everyone's interests. Sometimes love required difficult choices. The divorce proceedings began in early spring. Cordelia's lawyer cited irreconcilable differences and financial impropriety, asked for the house, half the business assets, and spousal support. I didn't contest anything. Felt too ashamed and confused to fight for what I thought I deserved. Signed whatever documents they placed in front of me. Benedict tried to mediate between his parents. Said he loved us both despite everything that had happened. That he wanted to preserve what remained of our family relationships. Sterling offered Cordelia emotional support during the proceedings, attended hearings as a friend, provided guidance about financial planning and future security. His presence seemed to give her strength. The house on Maple Street sold within a month. 30 years of memories packed into boxes and distributed between storage units and charity donations. I kept almost nothing except photographs and personal papers. Cordelia moved to a condominium downtown, clean lines and modern fixtures that erased all traces of our shared history. She seemed relieved to start fresh in a space untainted by betrayal. I rented a small apartment across town, one bedroom with thin walls and outdated appliances. The kind of place where broken people went to disappear from their former lives. Benedict visited regularly, brought groceries and encouragement, said he was working to rebuild the firm's reputation and restore client confidence. The process would take time, but he was optimistic. Sterling had agreed to invest in the company as a silent partner. His financial backing would stabilize operations while Benedict focused on creative work. A perfect arrangement that benefited everyone. The formal transfer of business ownership happened on a Tuesday afternoon in Sterling's law office. Documents transferring my life's work to my son. Legal papers that erased my existence from the company I had built. Benedict squeezed my shoulder when I finished signing. Said he would honor the Finley name and everything it represented. That he would make me proud despite the circumstances. I believed him completely. Felt grateful that something good could emerge from the wreckage of my failures. Cordelia's relationship with Sterling developed gradually. Friendship became companionship. Companionship became something deeper. She deserved happiness after everything I had put her through. They married 6 months after our divorce was finalized. Small ceremony with close friends and family. I was not invited but heard about it from Benedict. He said his mother looked radiant. Finally at peace. Sterling became more than Cordelia's husband. He assumed an active role in the business, brought connections and capital that accelerated growth. The firm expanded into commercial development and urban planning. Benedict flourished under Sterling's guidance, won awards for innovative design, attracted prestigious clients who valued cutting-edge architecture. The company became more successful than it had ever been under my leadership. I watched from the sidelines as my former life transformed into something unrecognizable. The business thrived. Cordelia glowed with newfound happiness. Benedict achieved professional recognition I had never managed. They invited me to holiday dinners and family celebrations, treated me with polite kindness that felt worse than hatred. I was the cautionary tale, the broken patriarch whose mistakes had taught everyone valuable lessons. Sterling was gracious in victory, never mentioned my past behavior or the circumstances that had brought us together. Spoke to me with respectful distance, the way you might address a former employee who had been quietly dismissed. Benedict continued his visits, but our conversations grew stilted. He updated me on business developments and asked about my health. We avoided discussing the past or acknowledging the gulf that had opened between us. I started taking longer walks through the city, visited places where Cordelia and I had been happy. The park where we had picnicked during Benedict's childhood. The restaurant where we had celebrated our anniversary every year. Those locations felt like archaeological sites, evidence of a civilization that had vanished without explanation. I was the sole survivor of a world that no longer existed. The final humiliation came when the local newspaper featured a story about the firm's renaissance. Sterling and Benedict were photographed in front of their latest project, a gleaming office complex that represented everything modern architecture could achieve. The article mentioned Finley Architectural Design's troubled past, a brief reference to previous ownership and the challenges of family business succession. My 30 years of work reduced to a cautionary footnote. I cut out the article and kept it in my wallet, proof that I had once mattered, that my name had meant something in this town. But even that small comfort felt hollow. The Finley name now belonged to Benedict and Sterling. I was just a ghost, haunting the margins of their success story. 7 years passed in this strange exile. 7 years of watching other people live my life better than I ever had. Margaret Chen called me on a Tuesday morning in March. She had worked in our accounting department for 15 years. Quiet woman who kept meticulous records and rarely spoke unless asked direct questions. I barely knew her personally, despite our long professional relationship. Her voice sounded weak over the phone, tired in a way that went beyond ordinary fatigue. She asked if I could visit her at the hospice downtown, said she had something important to tell me. The cancer had taken most of her weight, left her looking fragile and translucent against the white hospital sheets. But her eyes remained sharp, alert, carrying the burden of secrets she could no longer hold. Margaret spoke in whispers about forged signatures and altered documents, about Benedict visiting her office after hours with special requests, about Sterling Hayes coordinating bank transfers through offshore accounts. She had kept copies of everything, hidden them in her personal files for years, waited for someone to ask the right questions. When no one did, she decided to take the truth with her to the grave. But dying had changed her perspective, made her realize that silence was another form of betrayal, that I deserved to know what had been done to me. Margaret gave me a manila envelope thick with photocopied documents, bank statements showing coordinated transactions between Benedict and Sterling dating back 5 years, authorization forms with my signature perfectly replicated by someone who had studied my handwriting extensively. The woman named Diana, whose text messages had destroyed my marriage, existed only on paper. A fictional identity created with disposable phones and fabricated social media profiles. Every intimate conversation had been staged and documented for Cordelia's discovery. The mysterious restaurant receipts and hotel business cards had been purchased in bulk from establishments where Sterling maintained corporate accounts. The woman's earring had belonged to Benedict's college girlfriend. She had been paid $3,000 to participate in the deception. Client complaints about my behavior had been orchestrated through Sterling's business connections. The Morrison family, the Hendricks Law Firm, the Riverside Church Committee, all had received financial incentives to play their roles in my professional destruction. Dr. Martinez, the neurologist who had diagnosed my cognitive decline, was Sterling's brother-in-law. The psychiatric evaluations and medical reports had been falsified to support their narrative of my mental deterioration. Even Margaret herself had been manipulated, threatened with job loss and legal action if she revealed what she knew about the financial irregularities. She had watched my destruction unfold while being powerless to prevent it. The manila envelope contained 7 years of evidence, 7 years of systematic fraud and emotional manipulation, 7 years of watching me suffer while knowing the truth could set me free. Margaret died 3 days after our meeting, took her guilt and her courage to whatever comes after this life, left me alone with proof that arrived too late to matter. I spent weeks studying every document, tracing the timeline of my destruction with the precision of an archaeologist reconstructing an ancient civilization. The planning had begun even before Benedict became partner. Sterling had identified our firm as a target years earlier, recognized the potential value of our client base and reputation. Benedict had been recruited during his final year at MIT, trained in the art of psychological manipulation and financial fraud. They had studied me like scientists examining a laboratory specimen, mapped my weaknesses and vulnerabilities, identified pressure points that could be exploited for maximum damage. My trust in Benedict was their primary tool. My love for Cordelia became the weapon that destroyed our marriage. My pride in the firm provided the motivation for taking everything I had built. The operation had been flawless, methodical, executed with the kind of precision that comes from careful planning and patient implementation. They had turned my greatest strengths into the instruments of my own defeat. I considered taking the evidence to authorities, pursuing justice through the legal system, reclaiming what had been stolen from me through fraud and deception. But Margaret's death had taught me something about the weight of secrets, the burden of carrying truth that no one wanted to hear. Sometimes revelation causes more pain than concealment. Cordelia had died 6 months earlier, lung cancer that moved quickly and mercilessly through her body. I learned about her death from the newspaper obituary. Benedict had not called to inform me. She had spent her final years believing I was a thief and an adulterer, had gone to her grave thinking our marriage was built on lies and betrayal. No amount of evidence could restore her faith in me now. Sterling had inherited everything: the business, the house, the savings accounts that should have supported Cordelia's retirement. Benedict remained as his partner, managing day-to-day operations while Sterling controlled the finances. They had achieved complete victory, stolen not just my wealth and reputation, but the love of the 2 people who mattered most to me. They had turned my son into my destroyer and my wife into my judge. Pursuing justice would require years of legal battles and public scrutiny, would drag my name through courts and newspapers, would force me to relive every moment of betrayal and humiliation. I was 73 years old, too tired for vengeance, too broken for vindication. The truth was enough. I burned Margaret's documents in my kitchen sink, watched 7 years of evidence dissolve into ash and smoke. Let the secrets die with the woman who had carried them so long. Some knowledge is too heavy for the living to bear. Some truths arrive too late to heal the wounds they might have prevented. Sometimes the kindest choice is silence. I kept one photograph on my desk. The 3 of us at Benedict's college graduation. Cordelia glowing with maternal pride. Benedict radiant with achievement and promise. Myself beaming with hope for our shared future. We all looked so happy in that captured moment, so full of love and trust and possibility. Before betrayal taught us that family bonds could be broken. Before greed revealed the price of everything we held sacred. Sometimes I wondered when Benedict stopped loving us, whether there had been a specific moment when affection transformed into calculation, whether destroying us had caused him any pain at all. Sometimes I hoped it had hurt him too. The rain continues outside my window now, the same gentle precipitation that began when Margaret first called my name. 7 years of storms and sunshine have passed since that conversation in the hospice. I am 80 years old, live quietly in this small apartment, with my memories and my hard-won peace. The truth sits in my chest like a stone I no longer need to carry. Benedict sends Christmas cards every year, brief notes about business success and personal milestones. He never visits, but maintains the appearance of filial duty. Perhaps guilt requires some gesture toward the father he destroyed. I keep his cards in a shoebox beside my bed, evidence that somewhere beneath the betrayal, a trace of the boy I raised might still exist. The child who drew building plans and promised to make me proud. The photograph remains face up on my desk, a reminder that love existed before it was weaponized, that happiness lived in our house on Maple Street before it was sold to strangers. I have learned to carry both truths simultaneously, the devastating reality of what happened and the precious memory of what was. They coexist in my heart like parallel universes, both equally real, both impossibly true.